Another brutal finish by the Detroit Pistons with a 113-85 final score against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Some very troubling signs we saw on the court as well. Is there anything that can save us from the misery of this season? We'll get into it all right here at the DSN News Desk. What's good, Detroit Sports Nation? I am Eric Vincent, your host here at the DSN News Desk. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your time and support. And we got to take a second to unpack this game by the Pistons because we're seeing a lot of things that are extremely troubling with this team. 113-85 final score, and we keep stating this up the same way. We're okay with losing. In a rebuild, you're okay with the team losing. But the fashion in which the Pistons keep losing is extremely troubling, and we got to talk about it. This is just some of the most unwatchable basketball I've seen in a long time, and it seems like we keep seeing the same mistakes get repeated by this team. And for some players, you can expect that because you're playing a lot of rookies and young players, but some players on this roster that you're expecting to turn a corner, there's some things that you want to see change and grow throughout the season, and we're not seeing a lot of that with this team, unfortunately. It honestly started off weird because the starting lineup had a change. Because from what we've seen recently, it was Jaden Ivey and Alec Burks in the backcourt for the last few games, meaning Killian Hayes was taking his spot back on the bench as the sixth man. Out of nowhere, a lineup change. Killian Hayes to the starting lineup. Very confusing. If that was what you wanted to do, you could have kept him in there the whole time. He seemed to have been developing a little bit of a groove while in the starting lineup next to Jaden Ivey. He was really getting a groove with his mid-range jumper, finding himself. And I feel like putting him on the bench didn't really serve much of a purpose, especially if you just go put him right back in the starting lineup. So, I didn't really understand that by Dwayne Casey, and it really didn't seem to do much or make much of a difference in the game. Only 9 points for Killian Hayes. It really didn't do a whole lot for the game. And this is a game that really just kind of got out of hand. It started off bad from the beginning. If you look at the breakdown from the quarters, the Cavs scored 32 points in the opening quarter. The Pistons scored 14. Now, through the second and third quarter, they did a very good job of battling back, getting some key defensive stops, waking up and scoring, getting the ball moving, and finding some good open shots offensively. And they were able to trim the game and the lead of the Cavaliers down to 3 at a certain point. Then the fourth quarter got here, and all hell just completely broke loose. The Pistons were outscored by the Cavaliers 37-17 in the fourth quarter. The Pistons were absolutely out of it in every way, shape, or form. Turning the ball over, getting beat horrendously on defense. I don't know how many times we can see the Pistons get beat on defense by full court inbound passes. The Cavaliers scored on at least 3 possessions where the Pistons would score and the Cavaliers would take the ball out of bounds and get a full court outlet pass and get an easy layup or dunk at the rim. Meaning the Pistons are scoring and not doing the simple fundamentals of getting back after scoring. That's elementary stuff, man. Literally at least 3 times a game the Pistons have done that. It's so frustrating watching them do that. Watching them have blown assignments and miscommunication on cuts. Watching them offensively has just been disgusting. And, we talked about early in the intro where we're seeing some signs that are extremely troubling. And it's really starting to brew between the players. Specifically, Jaden Ivey and Isaiah Stewart. Their body language between each other is getting bad. It's been brewing for a while. We've seen instances like the game against the Bulls in Paris and a lot of other games even before that, but it's really getting worse and worse at this point. These are 2 players that really don't have a ton of chemistry with each other. Jaden Ivey has done pretty well in terms of his playmaking with Jalen Duren and Bogey, but him and Isaiah Stewart have not really had that much of a rapport. And it's really starting to show because they are butting heads. We're seeing them chirp and argue with each other at the free throw line. They're throwing their arms in the air and rolling their eyes and just showing that it's a clear bad vibe between those two. Now, it's not a good thing. It's clearly not. I like that they at least care and are, feisty enough and care enough to be able to address it with each other as teammates, as young teammates. But these issues that we're seeing are just staggering and just disgusting. Like, it's really rough watching them try to play the way they did, especially for Jaden Ivey. This wasn't one of his best games at all. Really struggled from the floor, turned the ball over a lot. 10 points, only shot the ball 6 times, turned the ball over 4 times, and had 5 fouls to go along with it. A lot, really, basically because he was struggling offensively and as well as defensively. Really, if you look at it, he was making a lot of out-of-control plays with offensive fouls. I think he had 2 of them on his own by just driving too fast and putting his shoulder down. And then he was struggling defensively as well. And keep in mind, the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't have Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell. And you getting in foul trouble against the backup guards of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Very, very discouraging performance by the Pistons tonight. With the trade deadline looming, everybody is wondering, is there any hope that maybe we can spark a trade and something will get done that can help turn things around and at least maybe not save the season, but make this season watchable and obtainable? Sadly, I don't see it. I don't see it with this team. I don't see it with the way that they're laid out, with the way that the roster is, with how the coaching staff and Troy Weaver have communicated things. I don't see a whole lot of big changes happening, at least not in the immediate future, because they talked about all the reports of rumors that Bojan Bogdanovic is getting sought after, that Alec Burks is sought after. Nerlens Noel apparently has 6 teams after him. You got to write up on our website, DetroitSportsNation.com. And considering what we've seen and knowing what we know, I don't see Burks or Bojan at this point leaving. Really, to me, I thought the only likely odds or the likely chance of somebody getting traded would have been Nerlens Noel. But if you look at how this team is laid out, they don't have a whole lot of front court depth, especially at the 5. You could sometimes see them roll in a Marvin Bagley when he was healthy, but he ain't ever healthy. You have Jalen Duren, who's kind of anchoring a lot, and he's getting in a lot of foul trouble. So you can't really lean too much of him on his own. And then when they put Beef Stew in at the 5, things go bad. I have no problem with Beef Stew playing the 4, but when they put him at the 5, this team is crippled beyond belief, and it needs to stop. So considering where they're at with that little depth that they have, I mean, they're playing Hamidou Diallo as a 5 that sets screens and rolls to get easy dunks at the rim. But he's not a center. He's 6'5". So it's kind of hard to look at that or use that. 6'6", 6'7", is somewhere in that range. Either way, he ain't a center, the point is. So knowing that we know that with this roster, it really shocked me if they made any kind of pull on a trade. I just don't see it happening. We are seeing some teams get a little bit desperate. I mean, Russell Westbrook just got traded. The Portland Trailblazers just made a move to get Cam Reddish, and I believe sent Josh Hart over to the Knicks after that, I believe. So you are seeing some teams get a little bit more active in the trade moves. Now, if teams like the Nuggets or the Grizzlies are looking to add a shooter to kind of solidify their core, maybe they get desperate and try to pull on somebody like Bojan, or maybe give a call for Alec Burks. But the Pistons have set their price and their asking price very high for those 2 players. And I don't see any of these contenders bidding that high to get them off of the Pistons roster. I just don't see it happening. If there's any change that probably needs to happen, and again, I've been very resistant to saying this out loud, but at this point, I'm just getting tired of it because it seems like it's not doing anything. If there's any first domino that needs to be changed, it has to be Dwayne Casey at this point. His calling card, the aura he was supposed to help bring for this team, it doesn't seem to be resonating. I think we saw Jaden Ivey and Dwayne Casey argue with each other on the bench. Now, don't read too much into that. I'm not saying they beefing or hate. I'm not trying to pump any of that. But you are seeing things that are showing more signs of discouragement than encouragement with this team. And, of course, obviously, with Cade Cunningham out, who was like the glue as the leader of that team, it hurts not having him on the court, especially when he doesn't travel for the games. I don't believe he was in the Cavaliers or on the court with the Cavaliers and sitting on the sideline for the Cavs game. So knowing that, it just doesn't seem like the Pistons are responding at all to Dwayne Casey's message. Now, again, hopefully with the return of Cade and an upgraded roster next season, maybe that will mean something will turn for the Pistons. But again, this is still going to be another young team. We don't know what pieces they're going to acquire in the offseason. We don't know what this new roster is going to look like. But knowing what we know about Dwayne Casey, knowing what we know about his struggle with rotations, like the way he would have the Pistons in position to take the game over and win, but you don't put Jalen Duren back in the game until the 5-minute mark of the fourth quarter, or just simple defensive rotations. Like, again, defense is supposed to be his number one calling card, and the Pistons are arguably the worst defense in the NBA. So considering what we know with that, it's very disappointing of the product that we've seen, and I don't think injuries are enough to blame. I don't think it's enough at this point. Now, if there's any changes it's going to be, I believe that'll be the first one. I don't think any blockbuster trades are going to happen. If I'm wrong, we'll address it and talk about it, but I just don't see it happening right away with this landscape. Pistons got a long road. Again, they seem a little bit behind on this rebuild. Patience has to be used in this rebuild, but man, they are not making it easy for us, man. But we're doing what we can. Talk to me in the comment section. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you want to chop it up about the game, you're more than welcome to talk about it. If you don't want to talk about a 28-point beatdown, I totally understand. But tell me this. Where do you think the Pistons go in terms of their next big move? Do you think it's a big trade coming? Do you think it's Dwayne Casey that's out the door soon? What do you think the Pistons' next big move is going to be at this point? Talk to me in the comment section. I'd love to hear your feedback. Make sure you like the video as well and subscribe to the channel. If you're new to the channel, pumping up on our way to 6,000 subscribers. Help us hit that milestone. We would greatly appreciate it. Make sure you're tapping in on our social media as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the above. Search and follow Detroit Sports Nation. And lock in with me as well at I am Eric Vincent. Thank you all so much for tuning in with your support. We greatly appreciate it. I'll see you again soon right here with another update from the DSN News Desk. Peace.